Our next guest covers the technology revolution for the Los Angeles Times. He's the author of a new book, fascinating book called All the Rave, The Rise and Fall of Sean Fanning's Napster. Today we're going to talk a little bit about a 17-year-old and how his program managed to really completely threaten the music industry and maybe change it forever. Joseph Menn, welcome to the Screensavers. It's great to have you. And I haven't read the whole thing, but the parts I've read, this is like National Enquirer meets PC Magazine. I mean, this is fascinating stuff in here.
Well, thanks. I hope it's not too National Enquirer.
Well, but that's true, though. That's what's amazing. And there's stuff that, you know, we've been following this story from the very beginning, of course, and everybody who was into Napster is pretty aware of Sean Fanning and what Napster did. But what we didn't know was what was going on behind the scenes, and there was a lot going on behind the scenes. Sean Fanning came from kind of a troubled home.
Yeah, it was a really rough upbringing. He was, his folks weren't married when he was born. He spent some time on welfare. He lived in foster care for a little while. Just didn't have a lot of money, and he really turned to programming pretty early as his ticket out. And he just had incredible focus
And a natural aptitude for it.
Yeah, he's a really smart kid.
So before he even went to college, he was programming.
Yeah, he started in high school, which is actually later than a lot of the other kids that got involved.
What were his early programs like? I mean,
well, they were, I guess you'd call them gray hat. There was, and this is something that the public doesn't know. He wrote a denial of service attack program, and he wrote a port scanner. And, you know, I'm not sure that a lot of people ever use the programs, but they're out there. They're up on the web.
Well, a lot of people would say Napster was gray hat. Was it intended to be a music stealing program? What was his original intent with it?
Not at all. He was interested in it from a technical perspective. I mean, he didn't see that there was any reason why you couldn't marry the breadth of a Spider, a search engine like Google or Alta Vista, with presence awareness like AOL Instant Messenger that knows who's got what. Because if you are only searching what's available right then you know the music's there. The problem was that the links were dead and you could never find the MP3s. And he just saw it as a technical issue and a real challenge, and he got inspired by the fact that people told him he couldn't do it. It wouldn't work.
Right. It's actually a brilliant conception, and it really is a revolution, but which has unfortunately been kind of obscured by this whole music stealing stuff.
It's really unfortunate. It's been adopted now by a lot of the Fortune 500.
Intel's doing
the government.
It for crying out loud.
Intel says it saved $1 billion using peer-to-peer.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a revolution.
Absolutely.
So did Sean come up with the idea? How did that happen?
Absolutely Sean's idea, and he wrote the first version of the program. He needed some help to get it to scale, and he had feedback from Internet Relay Chat group, a lot of pretty senior engineers in a variety of jobs, academics. And then he got some help on the server side in particular from a number of engineers, including Jordan Ritter, Ali Adar, and Jordan Mendelsohn.
Right.
So there's some really talented people who worked there, and none of them got really any recognition because Sean was the cover boy.
Did they get rich?
Nobody got rich.
Not even Sean.
Not even Sean, except for Sean's uncle. He was the one that got
Now, that's an interesting part of the story. John Fanning, his uncle, kind of moved in on this whole thing. How did he get involved?
Well, he was a father figure for Sean. Sean's real father was out of the picture, and you know, it was John Fanning who was this. He fancied himself a very successful businessman, and Sean was hanging around him when he was younger. John gave Sean his first computer. He gave him a car. He didn't make all the payments on the car. He got repossessed, but he did give him a car. And you know, he looked up to John, and John incorporated Napster not long after Sean had told him about it.
Interesting. So he was the grown-up. I mean, Sean's only 17 years old.
Exactly. Unfortunately, you know, you can't choose your family, and John kept 70% of the company. So Sean never controlled Napster Inc., not from day one.
Did John rip off his nephew?
I wouldn't use that word. I think it's interesting that despite John's claims to the contrary, he did not contribute to the technology.
Right.
Sean has testified in documents that aren't public, and he probably got about $1 million out of it, which is 5-6 times, perhaps as much as Sean got.
But not anywhere near the kinds of riches that many of the other .com folks
well,
made.
And John thought it was going to be $1 billion.
Yeah.
So a lot of people thought it was going to be billions.
And it might have been had the RIAA come after them with all guns a-blazing. 1999, the beginning, things are going great for Napster. When did it start turning sour?
Well, I would argue that it started going sour when John kept 70% of the company.
Yeah.
Because what happens, what I found in reporting the book, is that there were a number of chances where they could have gone straight. They had serious investors with experience who looked at the legal situation and said, we got a problem here. And then they looked at John and they said, we got another problem here. And they said, we could take one or the other, but not both.
Oh,
and so they kept choosing the more radical fork.
Right.
And the basic business plan was to extort from the record industry. We're going to get, whether it's legal or not, we're going to get so big that the record industry will want to settle with us.
They have to deal with us.
Yeah, because we have all their customers. We know more about their customers than the record industry does.
Wow, an interesting strategy. Now, of course, Hummer Winblad is being sued right now. They were the venture capital fund that gave them $100 million. And the RIAA is saying that, well, Hummer knew that this was going to be an illegal service. How accurate do you think that is?
That's a tough call. Hummer put in $13 million, and then in some operating expenses. Bertelsmann, even more incredibly, poured in another $85 million.
A big music company, one of the big five.
Yeah, and they're getting sued for $17 billion in February by songwriters.
Right.
So there's a lot of lawsuits still flying. It's going to take a long time to sort this out. What did Hummer know? Hank Barry, who was the interim CEO of Napster and a partner in Hummer Winblad, truly believed that Napster would win in court. It's just that he was one of the minority. And you could certainly argue that they didn't do enough research into it. They hadn't seen a lot of the bad internal emails that, have them talking about piracy.
And they weren't pushing piracy as a plan, as a strategy.
No, but they took a hard line in negotiations. Another thing that people don't know is that Napster was actually pretty close a number of times to cutting a deal.
A number of music companies.
They were pretty close to cutting a deal. At one point, Bertelsmann would have paid $250 million to the other labels. And I talked to Edgar Bronfman, and he said that he thought they were going to get there when they were talking to Hank Barry back in the summer of 2000 when things were going crazy. And then Andy Grove called Hank Barry and said, don't do it. Said,
really?
You can't let the record industry control Napster. It's too important. And then Hank took a much harder line in the talks, and it all fell apart.
Bad advice from somebody who normally gives pretty good advice. It sounds like Andy Grove had the same kind of misapprehension a lot of people did, that this was a technology that transcended the courts, transcended the music industry's interests, and would survive somehow just because it was the right thing. Is that what you would say? Or?
Yeah, I think that's fair, and in a lot of ways that's true. It's just that the facts in this case were so bad that unfortunately it's caused so much backlash. I mean, the RIAA can look at the internal documents, which are really bad, look at the fact that of 100 Napster users, 100 are sharing copyrighted files.
Right.
You got a serious problem there. And then they, armed with the precedent of the ruling against Napster, then they can go after the Groksters in the world and the Kazars and so forth and so on.
Sean Fanning seemed to kind of be baffled by the whole media circus, when Metallica's drummer went after him and all this stuff. I remember seeing pictures of Sean just not going, what happened here? Was he kind of just unwitting victim of this whole thing?
I think he knew he was pushing the envelope a little bit, but he knew that wasn't what he was good at.
Right. And he's a programmer.
He's a programmer, that's right. And he left, he and the other kids, including like the business-minded kids, I think were really smart, nice, honest, hardworking folks.
Right.
And the problem was that they trusted the grown-ups. And the grown-ups, the managers, the investors, they were worse than the kids. They're the ones that didn't do the due diligence they should have, didn't really investigate, and made some real bad calls.
What's happened to them all now?
Well, Sean's got another stealth internet music startup.
Good.
Which he doesn't like talking a lot about on account of it's a stealth project. But he believes it's a logical successor to Napster in a lot of ways.
Right.
He's looking, we should be hearing more about that soon. Jordan Ritter co-founded Cloudmark, which is a spam fighting company.
And done very well. We've recommended it. It's a good product.
And Sean Parker, who was described as the co-founder, he's as young as Sean is and was more the business side. He's got a startup called Plaxo Inc., which manages your email contact information.
What about John Fanning?
John Fanning is still in Home, Massachusetts. He's got a bunch of startups. Haven't heard a lot from them. It's going to be movies. It's going to be Napster. It's going to be big. We'll see what investors think.
Fascinating read. You can actually read an excerpt from Joseph's book on our website at thescreensavers.com. It really, it's hard to believe this actually all happened in the last 4 years. It's just amazing, but it's something that we all lived through, and to see what was really going on is even more fascinating. Read it online, thescreensavers.com, and get the book. It's called All the Rave, in bookstores right now from Crown.